You're listening to the Self-Disruption Show on iHeartRadio with Audrey Lawrence, hacking business, science, and psychology to smash your goals.
This is Audrey Lawrence, and you're listening to the Self-Disruption Show on iHeartRadio, WWPR Tampa Bay, or wherever you get your podcasts. Well, today, guys, I have brought you the Fountain, TV writer, director, producer, three-time Emmy winner. Come on. Hello. An incredible cinematographer. His binge-worthy show on PBS is a nationally syndicated series. Educational, inspirational, uplifting, the unseen landscapes around the globe from the down-to-earth voice. The must-see show that we watch in our house is called Outside Beyond the Lens. And the Emmy-winning talent, executive producer, and host is Jeff Aiello. Jeff, thank you for being here today.
Hey, man, what a great intro. I'm looking over my shoulder like, who's she talking about? No, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
You know, I love your show, and my audience knows my journey about moving my little voice into that space. So I have just been mentored by you. What you teach, what you share, how you travel, your mentality, you just sort of lay it all out there. You put your heart and your lens into this show. What was it like developing this show to bring, I would say, your heart, Jeff, to the world to see and to share?
Well, you know, I think the thing that we all, and it's myself and it's David Boomer, another cinematographer, and Zach Allen, primarily that do the show. We have John Neely as well. We all come from a place of just an honest, authentic love for travel. And there's a lot of travel shows, and I'm fans of them. I love Rick Steves, for instance, on PBS, and I loved Anthony Bourdain, and I love the stylings of his show. But when we go to these places, you know, I did a show similar to this for the Walt Disney Company, who I worked for a long time. And they told me, they said, go out and film a travel show that's really cheap to make with a small crew. And when you do that, you sort of are forced into this scenario where you have to be organic about it. And to me, authenticity and the organic approach to production, we don't do a big beat sheet. We don't do there's no producer on the side holding a clipboard when we do this show. We've got a general plan, and we try to experience the travel as travelers first and not TV show people. And I always tell people, Outside Beyond the Lens is a travel show about making a travel show. You know, so we break that fourth wall a lot.
Yeah, I love it. And that's one of the reasons that we've been so addicted to it. I think that, you know, addressing that fourth wall, people want to see behind. We want to know what's really going on. I will look there and go, okay, what is he shooting on? And what kind of camera is he using? And what I appreciate so most is that you move around the crowds. You totally ditch where popular tourism is going to take you, and you take us to the unseen places in Iceland. And I have to say to my listeners, whatever you are doing, whatever you are going today, in the back of your mind, remember this. We'll link it to our website. You've got to be able to take a moment and detox with this show. This show for me was therapy. I could skip a foot massage. I could skip all the little luxuries of life. Put on your show, pick my favorite dream destination, and just chill to the voice. And I shared with you off air how my daughter, my newborn, is just nuts for your voice, and just chill to the experience, as you say, authentically connecting to places on this globe that honestly, folks, we will never see. I don't care about time or money. You're probably not going to find these hidden treasures. But Jeff, you stumble on them because you're not working on a shot list. You're not working with the clipboard. So what is it like when you go out there and you find something great? Do you just launch that drone? How does that work? Because I see that drone in action.
Yeah, we love the drone. The drone's been fun to use. We do a little bit of research before we go. You know, I grew up very close to Yosemite National Park in California. So I'm very accustomed to throngs of tourists coming to my backyard and piling in to see the beauty of Yosemite Valley, for instance, right? With Half Dome and El Capitan and the valley and all the granite walls and such. And that place gets like 4 million visitors a year. And it got to a point where I wouldn't even go there in the summertime because it was so crowded. Yeah. And that forced me to start looking what was out there beyond the valley. And I started to discover this other part of Yosemite. I think that had a real impact on how I approach this show today, because, like, for instance, you mentioned Iceland. When we shot in Iceland, we knew for context, we had to show some of the popular places everybody goes to, because people that have been to Iceland, they love to watch a show like ours and then with their family members and say, I've been there. I saw that. You know, they like
the golden loop and connect the dots.
The golden circle. Yeah. The golden loop. And so we knew we had to hit some key parts on that, but then we took it extreme and went to the highlands of Iceland. So I'll do a lot of research, especially on a shoot like Iceland, because if you're not careful in the backcountry of Iceland, you can become dead. So you have to be really careful when you travel in a place like that, because it can get you, or at least very stranded and uncomfortable. So it's really not hard. You know, it's funny. One time we were shooting this show, and it was a different version of this show that, as I said before, that used to be on Disney. We had a show, like 2-3 days to film, and we were on top of this one mountain in the Sierra Nevada mountains. And I said, we're going to film a whole show within 300 yards of the truck.
Wow.
And I said, let's do it. And the guys looked at me and they're like, what are you talking about? I go, you know what? We can do this. So what the lesson from that is there's beauty everywhere. And travel is that one thing that sort of combines and links all people. When you travel a lot, and I'm sure you know this from traveling, like we talked about off air, when you travel a lot, you start to learn that we're all pretty much the same on this planet. You really do. I just got back from Croatia last week. I was filming in Croatia last week, and we met so many beautiful, warm people there. And you start to learn we're all kind of the same, man. And it starts to lessen the whole us versus them kind of mentality that so many people are kind of into. So I love the bonding that travel does to people. But finding those off the beaten path places is real easy. Just go where the people aren't, you know, and then explore.
And explore.
I always tell people, try not to have like a huge plan. It's good to have an itinerary. It's good to know where you're going, but there's the beauty, the magic of travel comes from the unplanned. And that's what our show captures. The why we go to a place is to capture it cinematically. But then while we're there, as you've seen, we turn the cameras on ourselves when some old man walks up to us out of the middle of nowhere, like Bruce in Utah, and says, hey, what are you guys doing? And we're like, we're filming a TV show. And he says, I want to be in it. And he sits down and then just tells us his life story. That kind of stuff you can't plan.
Right. You couldn't find this stuff if you wanted to. You couldn't map it. You got to let it happen. And isn't that sort of the lesson about what it is to live a really engaged life? You got to sometimes just move off script and let it happen. Let these moments wash over you. Your show clearly shows that. I remember you being on a road, you pulled over, there was a barbed wire fence you were trying to get over, and a man on the other side who maybe had an early cocktail hour. And you couldn't capture these moments, you couldn't script them, and it was beautiful TV. The scene, the scenery, the authenticity of the moment. And I know I use that word so much, but it just, for lack of a better term, gives somebody an opportunity to find a respite. For me as a viewer, when the world is upside down and the pandemic has me locked in, and P.S., I can't go anywhere, the international baby with an Australian husband, I can't travel. Suddenly I'm lost in the weeds of somebody's farm because of you. You've brought me there. And what is it that transforms somebody to a place? Because we see shows all the time and I'm not nearly as transformed. It's because I hear the surroundings. It's because I see the wheat moving. It's because I see the wheel literally hit the road. And when I see some of these tactile things, Jeff, it just makes me go on the journey with you. And those are the little subtle nuances about your show that I think is the delineation between other travel shows, where I see everybody load themselves up into a car, where I see everybody stop for lunch. It feels real. I get to be part of the experience. And that is what I just love so much. And other shows haven't put maybe their finger on what it is to film something. I don't even say it's grassroots because you do such an elegant job of it. It's just done in a holistic way. And I'm sorry, I'm gushing, but to my listeners,
thank you.
Yeah,
you've got it dialed. You've got it figured out.
It's a formula. It's that secret sauce of to bring a viewer with you. And it's the hand on the door handle. I mean, I'm neurotic about looking at the details, and I'm impressed with what it is to go on a journey with somebody. And you create 26.4 minute journeys that bring all of us with you. You start at a place, You pack us up, sometimes with your family in tow, and you go on a discovery that is off the grid. It's not, and I love Rick Steves, but it is not this planned sort of tour trap. It is, let's see what we're going to find. We're going to put this drone into the air and find cows running at the side of a mountain, and we're going to take you there. We're going to let you breathe the air. We're going to let you smell it. You describe it to us in this beautiful, elegant tone. And I'll tell you, it's transforming. Whenever it's over, and we usually watch it on a loop in our house, I'm always sad that it's gone. And I think that's an earmark of a beautiful TV show, that it hits 26 minutes and I'm like, already? It's only 15. How could it be 20? How is it gone?
I wish we could go an hour. We get a lot of comments from people that say, man, we wish this was an hour. And we've talked to PBS about it, and that's a possibility, extending it to an hour. We are going to do an hour special for our Croatia show. But, going back to that vibe you're talking about, I on this show, I edit it, I write it, I narrate it, I shoot it. And I have two really good friends that shoot with me that are excellent, beautiful photographers. And I think the thing, from an editorial standpoint, one of the things we try to do with the show that's very different than like a cable TV show or like a Rick Steves show is I control the pace of the show. And as you've picked up on, I try to make it very inclusive. And the way we do that is patience, what I call shot patience. We let shots just sit there. This is a show. We've gone a long way and hauled a bunch of heavy and expensive camera equipment to get somewhere, to set the camera up in the perfect time and get this beautiful shot. I don't want it to be up there for 2 seconds because some editor is cutting to some music beat, that wasn't there and doesn't understand the magic of that moment. Yeah. So it helps me really transmit what we experience there on scene because I'm editing the show myself. So I can really keep the vibe all the way through. And I think that's one of the things that makes the show different. The biggest compliment we hear, and we're blessed to hear it often, is that you tipped on it just now, when people say they feel like they were right there with us. That to me is the highest compliment we can get, because true. That's what the show's designed for.
You can smell it. It's the weirdest thing, but I'm going to say it to my listeners. You want to go smell a show, watch Jeff's show. You want to go detox, you want to go unplug, you want to find an Emmy-winning program that you can turn on with your kids in the room. You want to watch something on a loop, you want to entertain people, you want to learn something new, do you want to be inspired and uplifted? This is the show. If you're not watching the show, then something, and if you don't like, there's something wrong with you. This needs to be in your little DVR thing. This needs to be something that you talk about at the kitchen table. This needs to be something that you share with people around you. This show is special, folks. This is the show that you need to spend time building your heart around, because when you leave an experience, and I won't say stop watching, I'm going to say leave the experience. When you leave the experience of what this show is, you're changed. There's a piece of information in you that you didn't have before. And because of that, and I love talking about the neuroscience, when your brain experiences something new, it stays in your brain. It makes neural connections that invents a new part of your brain. We talk about the infrastructure. So I'll tell you a little bit, and this falls with my listeners. We talk about the neuroscience of what an image does to our brain, and how the caveman brain very often doesn't delineate between a picture of spaghetti. That's why when we see a picture of spaghetti, it can make our tummy rumble and our mouth water, because the neuroscience in our old caveman hedonic brain says that it's real. So when we experience your cinematic experience with our own eyes, you literally have an opportunity of taking parts of our brain there, and you are growing people's intellect. And that's what I love so much about good programming. Sorry, I keep gushing, but it's important to—
You know what? You can gush all day long. I'm really digging this, actually.
It's important to draw the line between what is junk food TV and what is something that could absolutely change how you think about the world, how you think about geography, how you think about places worth seeing in your life. I'll tell you, it's reconstructed our bucket list, which brings me to the question for you. What do you have this coming season for you? Looks exciting and dynamic. Give a little inside scoop to our listeners, and let's hear what is coming down the pipe.
Well, most of the country right now is watching season 2, which we actually filmed last year. So the way people see the show, it's kind of delayed by a year. So right now we're shooting season 3. And so season 3 is off to a really cool start. We shot in Central Tennessee back in April. Tennessee has some of the best state parks anywhere in the country. Their state park system is amazing. And then we'd heard about that. So we went and visited some beautiful state parks within an hour and a half from Nashville. And it's very transformative and that was a fun show. And so that'll be a good one. The next show that we did, we shot this one back in August. I love Alaska. I've been going to Alaska almost every year for the last 15 years of my life. And I either working or fishing or playing up there, sometimes both. And we had an opportunity to go up to and do a show similar to our Aspen show, where we took some friends and family up there with us. This one's really special because a friend of mine had a son who died sort of suddenly at the age of 25 and unexpectedly from an unknown heart condition. And this kid's name was Cam, and he loved Alaska. And his dad and him had built a cabin up there on the Kenai River. Cam or Brent, my friend, asked me, hey, and he's a big fan of the show. He goes, would you go up and do an episode on the river and try to capture that love of the river Cam had? We went up there, Audrey, and it was, there wasn't a dry eye when we came off that shoot. It was so cool. So the beauty of the Kenai River is going to be captured. Like I said before, we just got back from Croatia last week. Absolutely stunning, beautiful country. Everybody goes to Croatia. Or everybody who does go to Croatia, they usually go to Dubrovnik
and Split and Hvar. Yeah,
right.
I've been.
So we went to the northern part of Croatia, where few tourists really go, into what's called the Istria region. And so we went to seaside towns like Rovinj and Pula, and we really get into the capital of Zagreb. So it's really cool episode.
Old Italy.
It's very much like that.
Old Italy, yep.
And it's right there. Yeah. It's right across the Adriatic from, the Tuscany region. So it has a lot of that feel, a lot of wine country we visited. We talked to some winemakers, great olive oil, truffles. And then today I'm actually leaving for the British Virgin Islands. So we'll be filming for 8 days.
Oh, it's a tough job you've got, Jeff. I'm just going to say that really sucks for you.
I know. I get that a lot. I get a lot of, hey, can I carry a bag or a camera for you? There's a lot of travel. It's weary. As a traveler, travel's not always fun, the actual traveling process. Yeah. But I love to sail, and we're going down with some friends, and we've got 2 bareboat charter catamarans, and we're going to show you the British Virgin Islands and how we experience it and how we capture it cinematically.
And what a great place to show people how to get off the off-beaten track, because it is probably one of the over-touristed American destinations outside of the continent. It is beautiful, but unfortunately bombarded with cruise ships and bombarded with all of the things that poisons a true, authentic beauty of a location. Yeah. And I know you will distill that into something that is fresh and fair and an opportunity for the people to be seen and the landscape to be seen with new eyes, which is what your show does. It gives us new eyes. I love this.
We love doing that. And I also love to write. I write each episode, and I love writing. And I use the show as an opportunity, like you said before, not just to experience a new place and see it through our lens, but I always try to leave the viewer with some sort of reflective thought about the place, about travel in general, and usually some sort of moral to the story that's a deeper, bigger thing than just us running around in Switzerland or Iceland,
It shows, it's that call to action where people start looking and learning and deciding maybe we should question some of those natural boundaries we have about the who, the where, the why of our own surroundings, that maybe we should sort of let some of those walls melt or reduce some of those judgments. There's lessons. And I love those kinds of lessons that are quietly, beautifully, unsanctimoniously woven in to an overall beautiful message. Well done. Well done, you.
Thank you very much. It's really fun to hear, you and I haven't met before and until today. And I love getting feedback, and I also love when people get the show, and you clearly get what we're trying to do. And it means a lot to me. So thank you very much.
Well, I'm sure, my pleasure. I'm sure that most people get it, because I am by no means the smart cookie. So if I can get it, it's to be gotten. It's the Everyman Show. It's the show that, it's just worth watching with all the junk that's out there, for crying out loud. And honestly, I turned channels going, really? I have to even watch. I can't even stand this commercial. This is the one thing that I can't get enough of. It's binge-worthy content in our house.
Yeah, I did I worked for the Walt Disney Company for a long time, worked for ABC Television, and I did a travel show called Motion. A lot of people used to watch that one. That aired nationally. I did a food show with Joey Fatone from NSYNC for like 3 years called My Family Recipe Rocks. And that was, fun and lighthearted, and had a great time. And Joey and I had a blast doing that. This show is, what I love about PBS. And before I get to PBS, I've done some cable television work. I get hired sometimes as director of photography on travel channel shows, on shows that air on cable channels like that. And I did a documentary back in 2015 with Kevin Costner, called Billy the Kid: New Evidence. And it was a full-blown 2-hour documentary that aired on National Geographic Channel. And that was an amazing experience. And I learned so much about this old photograph of Billy the Kid that was discovered here in California. And we went through this whole process of determining whether it was authentic or not. And it's a really cool film. But I realized there's a method to cable television that sort of leads producers like me down a path of not always living by the authenticity of what's really happening. Fabricated drama, manufactured tension, all this kind of stuff. And it was kind of repelling to me. And I still love the people that I know that do that stuff. And if I got called tomorrow to do something, I'm sure I would do it. But I'm just telling you from a personal standpoint, I love the type of programming that PBS allows us to do and tell these real stories I love no commercial breaks. I really love that as a producer. And I just love the kind of, depth that we can bring to a TV show that you can't always get on the major cable networks.
Yep, it is. And their commitment to this kind of programming, educational, heartfelt, simple. And I don't mean simple in the sense of simpleton. I mean, 3 guys on the road with cameras is an ongoing successful format for one of the longest, most proliferated TV shows or TV networks. And certainly one of the most successful publicly funded. That was my PBS shout out. I think I've earned my PBS points for the day.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's them finding the gift inside you. It's saying that this is our criteria of what educated television looks like. Now we're going to go find the producers and executive hosts that are going to be able to make this happen. And your show is that in a nutshell. How can our listeners learn more about you, Jeff? Where can we find all these great shows? Where are you listed?
Well, I think the best way to watch the show, if you're listening, and I believe our show, obviously it does air I think it airs in Tampa. It airs in 300 markets across the United States right now, airs in 7 countries outside, internationally. But I always tell people, get the PBS app on your phone. No matter what city you're in, you can find the show that way. If you download the PBS app on your smart TV, on your tablet, on your iPad, your phone, once you download that app, then you can just punch in the search Outside Beyond the Lens and boop, will pop up. It's awesome. Really that easy. We have a YouTube channel. Our OutsideBeyondtheLens.com is a great way to kind of see what we're doing as far as shows coming up. And then our Facebook page, which is Outside Beyond the Lens. I'm personally very active on that page, and I try to answer personally every comment and talk to people as much as I can. And we really do. And then what's really cool about that, and you can see this if you go follow our page in the next week, is that when we're on a shoot, we bring people along on the shoot with this. So when you're on the shoot, I'm doing livers from Facebook on the Facebook page. I'm doing live shots. I'm doing constant picture updates, a lot of BTS, a lot of behind the scenes. And our hardcore fans love following us on Facebook because when we're shooting, they're getting a sneak peek of what that episode's going to be.
Awesome. I love it. So when is the masterclass shooter come? That's some of the questions that we had on our team. We have a whole list. When's Jeff going to do a masterclass? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to ask him. I'm going to shoot the next one at you. When are you going to do an excursion shoot where you go to a destination and we get to meet you there and learn how to shoot with you because we're all going with camera in tow. So this is some of your fans from afar.
These are great ideas, and we're actually talking about both of those. I've been approached by several people now about a masterclass idea, and so I'm talking to some folks about that. And the format of this show that we used to do for Disney, we used to have every so often we had an episode what we called the fan hiker episode. And we would fly people from wherever they were in the country, and we would take them. We tried to select people who really would never have a chance of traveling to somewhere kind of cool and exotic. So we were taking that single mom from Paducah and, and her kid, and we took them to the Everglades. And so we kind of want to we want to get back into that. I think season 3 coming up, or season 4 is probably when we'll do that. Because we're almost done with season 3. We've got 5 more to do. I love the idea we love connecting with our fans. And I love the idea of doing an excursion show, a photo safari show, or even just a trip where we just come out and say, hey man, meet us here, bring your camera, and let's go have a good time. I love both those ideas. You're hired as my associate producer.
Perfect. Well, that's perfect segue for me. When can I be your executive? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you can.
Before we go, this is the question that my heart hangs on everywhere I go, everyone I meet. There's something special about asking somebody, what is the one thing that we should all know as listeners? You've had such amazing experiences, Jeff. You've traveled, you've met people. There's got to be that little distilled takeaway moment where you've said, you know what, this is the secret sauce of what it is to be me, or to find my own happiness and success. And I know it's a really pressure question, but I love asking it, with everything that you have and everything you've accomplished. And my gosh, hello, 3 Emmys. What is the one thing that we should know? What is that takeaway that we should carry with us from your eyes and your lens?
For me, it has been my life's journey has been made so much better through the partnership with my wife, Jill, who's also my business partner. And Jill's really the secret sauce behind me. She's been super motivating to me. She's been a person who works hard on this show, on our social media, and having, especially like a shoot we're getting ready to do now, when you have someone really you care about and that you love living life with. When I'm away from my family, I miss them terribly. It makes me want to work harder to get back to them and do a good job. But I think all of that built a person who has compassion. I think the world needs more compassion. And for me, when I'm out there, the experience of my life and being married to Jill and having the kids that we have, and being blessed with this job to be able to travel the world and meet so many great people. I always just see that when you have some compassion for other human beings, no matter what setting you're in, and you can really open your mind. It goes back to what I was saying earlier. Travel is a beautiful way to experience not just the place, but the people that live there. And that to me is what this is all about.
Amazing. So beautifully said. And I will give a shout out to your gorgeous wife. She's on the show, and clearly you can see that she's like corralling everything and keeping it together. And kudos to her for busy mom and executive running this whole, bigger version of what it is to make this TV show global. I mean, it's such an impressive thing. And of course, you and your work and your team, a huge thank you to you, Jeff. Thank you so much for being here. And to all of our listeners in WWPR Tampa Bay, to iHeartRadio, and everyone who follows us on all of your social media platforms. A shout out to our Instagram and YouTube families. Thank you very much. This is Audrey Lawrence, and you're listening to The Self-Disruption Show.
Thank you for listening to The Self-Disruption Show with Audrey Lawrence. To learn more, go to audreylawrence.org and follow us on your favorite social media.